All right, everybody. So thanks a lot for joining me on this Monday afternoon market recap. The story of mixed bifurcated markets continues. Today we saw a relatively strong downward session on the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It is setting to look up, that of which being a evening star reversal. You can see the long day Morobozu candlestick, so to speak, on Thursday. We've got the little spinning top on Friday. And then today, a sort of that of a long day Morobozu dark candlestick. So you can see the formation there, a 3-day reversal pattern. This isn't all that unexpected. We have been waiting for this to occur. The reason for that is because once we come on up and we close these very important, these very significant open windows, again, dating all the way back to January 2018, we expect the markets to somewhat act as if we are coming back up to retest or touch for the first time that of a psychological round number. So the market did sort of overstep that resistance area leading into the back end of trade last week, especially on Thursday. And then, of course, Friday, this is the natural recalibration, probably all the way back down to 26,435 at an absolute minimum. So pay attention to that. On the Dow Jones Industrial Average today, on the S&P 500, we did close down very close to 10 points, a gap in the bearish direction. Really what we did do was close the gap that set up between Wednesday and Thursday, and at the same time create another gap between Friday and that of today's trading session. So of the three markets at the moment, the one which is giving us probably the most neutral sort of outlook is that of the S&P 500 at this particular date. But I don't want to focus our time here right now on that of the S&P. I'd rather speak about that of the NASDAQ, because the way we are interpreting these markets and the direction of these markets over the next coming months is really coming down to what occurs on and what happens with the NASDAQ itself. So what we've been paying attention to is that of this upward rising bullish trend line, and of course the battle to remain above it for the bulls, and that of the potential of a breakdown if the bears are going to gain control of the market. Now today on Monday, we started to see once again another flinching below that of this rising support area. Also what we did was that we came on back down and retested. I'm not sure how many times this is now. We can count them very quickly. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is the 9th session of trade where we have more or less sort of bounced about this 7,925 area. Now, again, there is a battle going on. We saw a big gap down between the close on Friday and the open during today's session. However, the market was largely bought, or at least the NASDAQ was. So this is relatively healthy. We do have that of a relatively strong sort of bullish candlestick setup. However, the problem is, and if you pay very close attention to the minor level detail of today's candlestick, is that we do have another consecutive flinching and pseudo breaking of these multiple areas of support. And the longer we persist around this, and the longer we persist without a significant bounce, not to say that a significant bounce isn't coming, but if we fail to see this materialize, probably within 2 weeks, the odds of the market actually taking the downward path really go up exponentially. Now, again, because we did see that of a white candlestick, we're going to see this translate and flow through into a bunch of individual trades, and that is exactly what we saw. Now, our biggest contention over the weekend was with a lot of these tech companies. They are getting very close to their rising 50 exponential moving average. Now, Apple is not one of those stocks. However, we do have that of an engulfing candlestick on the daily time frame. So we closed up $3.42. You can see that we are also holding on to the support area, relatively speaking, somewhat similar to that of the NASDAQ as well. But really what the question becomes is, are we going to see essentially a base hold, friction develop, and then some form of traction to really push these markets and individual stocks off from their support areas after moving into this sort of correctional type of move that we have been stuck in really for the past month's worth of trade? That is the big question right now. And again, very simply, to unlock the direction of these markets moving forward, if we do break below these two support areas on the NASDAQ, again, the horizontal area of support and the rising bullish trend line, 7,849 is that bearish contingency, which will trigger us into the Qs, but also more importantly, will unlock a lot of bearish sentiment and significantly lower prices in a bunch of individual stocks. Conversely, however, if we do see that traction, if we do see that legitimate bounce more or less off from current areas and we take out 8,137, well then simply what we'll do is we'll look for confirmation, whether it be in our individual list over here with stocks breaking out to new all-time highs, and we'll simply just jump into a bunch of calls on those stocks. But in the meantime, for the time being, as we're more or less stuck in no man's land at the moment, it is pure speculation if you find yourself wanting to jump into both bullish or bearish trades at this particular time. It isn't the most intelligent thing to be doing, given of course that the markets are still rather non-committal in their direction. We've got Amazon again linking us back into the story and the narrative of the rising 50-day exponential moving average. You can see pretty healthy development here on Amazon, a long lower wick bouncing off from this rising 50 exponential moving average. Of course, this is going to work somewhat in conjunction with these oscillators pushing back down into oversold conditions. Do I think this is the base for Amazon? Personally, no. But that is going to be determined by that of the NASDAQ. But this is a relatively strong candlestick. It is somewhat similar to that of a hammer candlestick, and it is showing up, technically speaking, at a logical area of support if I was to draw a horizontal line through there. Too early for me to jump into this long. I'd encourage you to rethink your own actions if you're looking to just simply jump into this. It needs a little bit more time, and above all else, we need to see what the NASDAQ does, whether it confirms bullish, confirming that of the Dow and the S&P 500 higher, or whether or not we do see a break to the downside, which is going to confirm a lot of bearish sentiment. As I spoke about a little bit earlier on, we've got Boeing Airlines pulling back a little bit today, down $4.05. Let me just scroll through our top 12 individual trade list. We're down $2.37 on Baidu again. We're largely non-interested in this particular stock really right now, and we've spoken in quite duration over the weekend, a number of weeks on Baidu. At the moment, it's simply just not really all that tradable. Caterpillar's pulling back down, one, to close this window, very similar to some of the movements that we're seeing on the broader market indices themselves. But at the same time, it has had a very favorable push, very similar to the Dow towards the back end of last week. So again, few people still holding those bullish trades over here from 137 and 141. I would encourage you to close this out. We've pushed back down below our target up here at 154.29. Who knows, this may set up that of a bull flag, but again, wait for market confirmation. It's very important. We've got COP today setting up that of a shooting star candle. If the markets roll, COP and Boeing Airlines are going to be the two trades along with Tesla that are really going to tank, and also potentially Google as it sits on a bunch of hot air after the reversal print we saw today. Let's continue with CVX. CVX is moving back up into this declining bearish trend line. If you connect the highs dating back from May, you can see multiple tags, multiple retests, multiple touches, and then of course significant reversals off from this pivot point. You can see all the supply lingering down along this angle here. We're very close to it. We still have a little bit further to go, but more or less right now we're at 123 or very close to it, and you're going to see CVX slow once we come on up and begin interacting with this declining bearish trend line just here. Google, again, much like other tech companies, we're starting to see the first white candlestick, the reversal candlestick, a little bit of a piercing pattern, but not true. You can see the sentiment here. We gapped down. We saw an intra-session, or at least we posted an intra-session reversal. We didn't technically close at least halfway into Friday's candle, but all things considered, this is a relatively bullish signal. The fact remains, however, or at least the question remains, what is going to occur and which direction is going to confirm on the NASDAQ? We are starting to see, again, a little bit of bullish sentiment flow through to individual candles or individual stocks, which is reminiscent, of course, of the candle print today on the NASDAQ. But at the same time, we don't know if it is a true signal, because one candlestick is simply not enough to really dictate to us that we have definitively changed that of a correctional type of move into that of the continuation of the bullish upswing. So again, we're going to pay attention to it without really a vested interest in the market at this particular point. We've got IBM pulling back down from our target at 150.93. This took a little bit longer than expected. Again, pretty much got stuck moving sideways for a month before we saw a little bit of a sort of blow off top towards the back end of last week, really setting up almost 2 weeks ago as well. We're at the sort of the gap resistance at the moment. We're sort of in the midpoint of this gap, or very close to it during Friday's session. Again, printing something similar to that of an evening star 3-day reversal pattern. We're going to have to check the final print of volume in a couple of minutes time just to see what these true signals are giving us. Again, we've got Netflix, another engulfing type of candle. This is what we were speaking about over the weekend. It would be ideal to see this come up to about $390, if not $400 per share, and then to start registering some interesting candlesticks, shall we say. And I'm pretty happy and confident with this trigger just here. This looks like some form of a rising 3 type of continuation pattern. You can see that the session here, this is going back to Tuesday last week. three sort of falling bearish candlesticks, largely within the real body of Tuesday's candlestick. And then again today, we're seeing that of a continuation to the upside. Don't think that this is a big sort of trend continuation. What's most likely going to happen is just going to be the closure of that gap around 400 prior to more important signals taking place up in this red sort of or orange rectangular box on my screen. It's also going to coordinate quite nicely with that of the back test of this double top just here on the left-hand side of my screen as well on Netflix. Let's move into Tesla. Tesla today, absolutely sleepy. Didn't go anywhere, but at the same time, still retesting that critical sort of resistance area that was once support and has acted as support on a multiple of occasions. It's going to be very interesting to see what Tesla does. If we do see any movement below 274, the bottom of Tesla should fall out, and we could see this very easily lose quite a significant amount of market cap in a relatively short period of time. So that's going to do us as at this Monday afternoon. Again, markets bifurcated, undecided, relatively choppy. At the same time, pretty decent signal today on the Nasdaq. If this is going to be sort of that respecting of multiple, or at least the confluence of support, but if this is a false signal, which somewhat confirms the type of candlestick that we saw on the Dow Jones Industrial Average, it could get very interesting as early as tomorrow, if not certainly as we draw into the back end of this current week of trade. So that's going to do us. If you have any questions, please email me, success@pivotpoint-trading.com. I wish you all a very pleasant evening. I'll be back with you tomorrow for another market recap. All the best. Goodbye.